Chapter 2177. The strength of the metal was not strong. But the dean's body instinctively took a few steps back. He was dumbfounded and looked at Gui Yu in disbelief. You, Gui Yu continued to laugh. I'm just satisfying your selfish desires for so many years. Don't you want me to get out of the Heavenly Academy? I'm fulfilling your wish. The dean looked at the metal that landed at his feet. The expression on his face gradually became gloomy. Old man Gui Yu's actions stunned the onlooking students. Old man Gui Yu in the academy, although he was the most unprofessional teacher. And no student dared to provoke him in the entire academy. But Gui Yu was a special existence to the students. Among so many solemn teachers, Yizichen could not help but laugh. There was a crazy and bad-tempered teacher. And this crazy teacher would never treat them according to the academy's rules. Although they were afraid of him. However, it allowed them to feel a little more relaxed in their intense study. Gui Yu actually wanted to leave the Heavenly Academy? The students had yet to react. The next moment, Ghost Doctor looked at the dean indifferently and said in a calm voice, "It seems that the dean also wants to kick me out of the Heavenly Academy. Then, I, Ghost Doctor, will withdraw from the Heavenly Academy from today onwards, and will be stripped of my exclusive pharmacist position." He handed the 2 medicine bottles in his hand to the elder beside him. The elder's hand trembled and did not dare to receive it. Ghost Doctor squinted and said in a low voice, "Huh." The elder looked at the dean in shock. At this moment the dean was about to explode. It was fine that Gui Yu disgraced him in public for a student. After all, that was Gui Yu's character. But Ghost Doctor was the exclusive pharmacist whom he had painstakingly invited 3 times. He was the biggest signboard of the Heavenly Academy. He was the symbol of the Heavenly Academy. For so many years, they had cooperated peacefully with each other because Ghost Doctor hated trouble. But now Ghost Doctor was like Gui Yu withdrawing from the Heavenly Academy for a student. His face was livid, he clenched his fists and said in a tight voice, "Ghost Doctor, for so many years, the Academy has provided you with herbs, medicinal ingredients and various advanced equipment for refining medicine. The position of personal apothecary is not something you can get rid of just because you want to." The Ghost Doctor's white brows raised slightly and the corners of her lips twitched coldly. "Since the dean wants to calculate with me the pill refining equipment that you've provided me for all these years, then I'll also calculate with the dean how many of the pills that I, the Ghost Doctor, have refined over all these years, entered your dean's pocket." The dean's face immediately turned pale. "What nonsense are you spouting? Let's not talk about the pills that went into your pocket. Let's talk about the pills that I threw into the Academy's medicinal storehouse. I'm sure the Academy remembers every single item clearly. We can calculate whether the pills I refined are more valuable, or the medicinal ingredients you provided are more valuable." The Ghost Doctor continued. The dean's face turned completely pale. To be more precise, it was grayish-white. His face was ashen and he couldn't even spit out a retort. Ghost Doctor sneered, "It's the Heavenly Academy's misfortune to have a dean like you." The dean exploded. "Good. Great. You're using this method to humiliate me and force me, aren't you? Good. You're not from the Heavenly Academy now. Men, chase all these outsiders who are causing trouble in the Academy out." The Academy guards looked at each other, at Ghost Doctor and Gui Yu and then at the dean. Chapter 2178. The director was so infuriated that his fingers were trembling. He raised his hand and pointed at the group of guards as he bellowed furiously. "You bunch of trash. Now I can't even order you around anymore, right? Good. Good." He stared fiercely at those elders and those masters who heard the commotion. "Who wants to leave this academy today? Say it out loud and scram. Scram out of the Heavenly Academy." The crowd who were implicated. Was this really the usual dignified and benevolent, although dignified but amiable director? Why was he so harsh today, constantly targeting a student? And even inverted right and wrong framing Yiqing Luo. Was this really something that the director of the academy could do? Now he even forced Gui Yu and Ghost Doctor away. Even the other students and masters were implicated for no reason. The negative impression of the director in the students' hearts was getting deeper and deeper. The director was in a fit of rage, so why would he bother to consider what the students were thinking? No one wants to leave, right? Since no one wants to leave, then all of you chase these people who are not from the Heavenly Academy out. The director waved his arms hysterically. That look made the students extremely disgusted. Guo Yu's fiery temper couldn't be controlled as he dashed in front of the director and grabbed his collar. Heavenly Director. Even if I don't want to be a master, but if I want to stay in the academy, I will stay in the academy. The person who has the least right to chase me away is you. The director's collar was tightened and his face flushed red. He grabbed Guo Yu's hand, which had green veins popping out, trying to struggle. But how could his strength match up to Guo Yu? Guo Yu, how dare you touch me? A bunch of trash, hurry and stop him. The director's neck was tightly bound as he struggled to say every word. The guards looked at each other. Previously they were the ones who asked them to chase Guo Yu and Ghost Doctor out. They naturally didn't dare to. But now their director was being strangled in front of their eyes. No matter what, they had to stop it. The guards cupped their fists towards Guo Yu and said in a low voice, "Master Guo Yu, sorry to offend you." Saying that, a group of people rushed forward to save the director. They didn't dare to touch Guo Yu. Naturally, he was no match for Old Man Guo Yu's hot temper. Old Man Guo Yu did not intend to let the dean go so easily. He grabbed the dean's neck with his 5 fingers and threw him towards the direction of the guards. The headmaster felt as though his throat was about to be broken when he was suddenly flung around by the neck. The guards scrambled to catch the dean. The dean leaned on them and coughed. He was in an extremely sorry state. The ghost doctor's gaze was calm and she swept an unwavering glance at the director. "There's no need for you to chase us away, we'll naturally leave. Only, if you want to harm my disciple today, don't blame me for disregarding our many years of cooperation." 2 old men dressed in white robes stood in front of Yiqing Luo in a domineering and mighty manner. Their eyes were filled with disdain and mockery as they looked at the principal. The director hadn't even caught his breath when he heard the ghost doctor's warning. He was so angry that he had nowhere to vent his anger. "Trash. A bunch of trash. All of you are siding with the 2 traitors of the Heavenly Academy, aren't you? Good. All of you scram for this dean. All of you get lost." The director was coughing as he roared and pushed the guards behind him. He waved his sleeve and pointed towards the students and masters who were crowding around. Chapter 2179. The students looked at the hysterical and malevolent-looking director, and hearing what he said, the anger in their hearts was ignited. These students were all 15 to 16 years old and the oldest was 23 to 24 years old. They weren't considered as mature mentally. During this period of time, the crisis in the West continent had erupted. They had been forced to stay in the Heavenly Academy by the director. On the surface, the director was doing it for their safety. But in actual fact, they were hostages. They couldn't leave the academy. They couldn't contact their own families. They had no idea what the outcome of the battle outside was. It was rumored that some students were worried about their families. They forced their way out of the academy. They secretly tried to escape from the academy. Those were all caught by the director. After that, they couldn't hear any news from those people anymore. The director said that those students wanted to leave and he sent them back to their families. But what was the truth? The students didn't want to guess and didn't dare to guess. However, these things had already planted a seed in the hearts of the students. Today they were dragged into the water by the director again and again for no rhyme or reason, being scolded and reprimanded. These hot-blooded youngsters' pent-up anger had reached its peak and immediately exploded uncontrollably. "Go. Let's go. Heavenly Academy, do you really think that the current Heavenly Academy is still the old Heavenly Academy? If it wasn't for student Yiqing Luo in our academy, the Heavenly Academy would have been demolished long ago. To let someone like you become the director of the Heavenly Academy is to bring shame to the Heavenly Academy. What best academy, first academy, with an ungrateful director like you who thinks of ways to harm your own students? We can't afford to wait on you." The students' rage could no longer be held back. One by one, they tore off their uniforms and threw it on the ground as they were about to leave. The director was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood as his finger trembled as he pointed at the bunch of students who were frantically flinging off their uniforms. He almost fainted from anger. Amidst the chaotic atmosphere, the students were fighting to be the first to leave. A clear voice rang leisurely. "Leave? Why do you want to leave?" A young lady's unique, sweet and crisp voice was extremely recognizable. Upon hearing it, they knew that it was Yiqing Luo's voice. The students' footsteps halted as they turned back towards the direction of the voice. He saw Yiqing Luo's arms crossed as she walked step by step towards the direction of the director. Her steps were slow and graceful. Her red dress fluttered in the wind as she walked, like a blooming rose. A majestic and powerful aura spread out invisibly. In an instant the entire training square was shaken. The Heavenly Academy is our academy. If anyone were to leave, it should be this. If the president who betrayed the Heavenly Academy leaves, why should we, the innocent students and teachers, leave? The girl chuckled, her posture languid and elegant. She raised her eyes and glanced at the students. Come back. The students were still seething with anger, their blood boiling, and it was a mess. But after the girl spoke, they all quietened down at the same time. No one refuted Yiqing Luo's words. They stopped in their tracks. What Yiqing Luo said was right. They were students of the Heavenly Academy. Why should they leave? Clearly, the one in the wrong was the principal. If they left, wouldn't that be giving the dean an advantage? Yiqing Luo, how dare you incite the students? Do you know soul manipulation? Are you controlling these students? Are you trying to destroy the Heavenly Academy? Chapter 2180. Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she walked elegantly to the front of the director. Her charming eyes swept across the guards who were supporting the director. The guards felt as though their bodies were entangled by a cold, poisonous snake. The guards instinctively let go of the director's support as they uniformly retreated a few steps back. The director was originally pinched by old man Guiyu and his entire body was still limp. After that he was so infuriated by Yiqing Luo that he vomited blood. Without the support of the guards, the director fell onto the ground in a sorry state. He was in so much pain that he was gritting his teeth as his expression was sinister, totally without the usual dignified look. Yul, are you all bewitched by this slut? The director supported his waist as he tried to stand up. But at the next moment, a small foot suddenly stepped on his back. The director gave a muffled groan as his body fell heavily onto the ground uncontrollably. That sinister face was forcefully stepped onto the ground as he ate a mouthful of dust. Not waiting for the director to fly into a rage. His body was suddenly lifted into the air and with a flip he fell heavily onto the ground with all 4 feet facing the sky. The director cried out miserably. Yiqing Luo slowly walked closer as she looked down at him condescendingly. If you want to win the hearts of the people, then you have to first see if you treat them sincerely. A selfish director like you also wants to gain the support of the students? The director's face turned ashen from the humiliation. But there was really no one around to stop him. They just watched him being humiliated by a student. The director was fuming with anger as his eyes shot out an intense hatred. He slammed the ground as his body flipped over. Yiqing Luo, you're looking for death. He roared as he suddenly struck a palm towards the direction of the attack. That palm was filled with dense, profound energy. It was filled with murderous intent. Yiqing Luo sneered as she was about to retaliate. Suddenly, an even more powerful profound energy blocked in front of her as it directly suppressed the director's palm wind. The director suffered a backlash as his body flew backwards and rolled onto the ground. He clutched his chest as he raised his head. He saw the heavenly profound palace's envoy slowly retracting the palm which he had waved earlier. His face, which was as thin as a match, was filled with a sinister and terrifying indifference. Dean Xian, this emissary is not here to see you being unreasonable here. The emissary's voice was very cold, and his tone revealed his disdain towards the dean. He paused for a moment as his vision shot towards Yiqing Luo. Student Yiqing Luo had said something very right. A selfish person like you is indeed not fit to be the director. The dean's face turned ashen and pale. The envoy didn't bother about the director as he spoke to Yiqing Luo. Student Yiqing Luo, the reason why the hall master wants to meet you isn't because he has any ill intentions towards you, but to ask you a few questions. Even hall master doesn't know about this, how would I know? Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. Student Yiqing Luo, you must know. The messenger insisted. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she looked towards Ghost Doctor and Old Man Guiyu. Both of them looked at the emissary with vigilance. Seeing Yiqing Luo looking at them, Old Man Guiyu immediately went forward and pulled Yiqing Luo behind him. Go back and tell that whatever hall master, the person I'm protecting, is not someone he can meet whenever he wants. If there's any problem, come out and look for Las Luo yourself. His words paused as he added another sentence. And it must be under the condition that I'm present. This protective look made Yiqing Luo's heart warm up. Chapter 2181. Las Luo. You don't know what kind of place the upper profound hall is. That is not a place for you to fool around. Old man Gui Yu understood the meaning behind Yiqing Luo's words as he immediately suppressed his voice to persuade her. Yiqing Luo smiled. No matter, I'll be fine. Since when have you seen me doing something that I'm not confident of? She cherished her life very much. She wouldn't feel that she was in the sky profound stage and she could be that awesome. From the messenger's aura, Yiqing Luo indeed didn't feel any murderous intent. Moreover, when those 4 upper profound hall's guards came to capture her, she had noticed the messenger's expression. When the guards were attacking her, the emissary's eyes had always been fixed on her. The expression on his face was indeed worried if she was injured. The messenger was serious when he instructed the guards not to hurt her. So she could conclude that hall master wasn't here to find trouble. Since that hall master wanted to ask her questions, she would go and meet that hall master to see what kind of place the upper profound hall was. Old man Gui Yu and Ghost Doctor exchanged glances and immediately relaxed their arrogance. All right, go. If you're not back in 1 hour, we will inform the Imperial Palace and barge into the upper profound hall. Wasn't it a little too exaggerated? Yiqing Luo looked at the both of them as she warned the messenger. The messenger was originally high and mighty but was forced to bow down to the 2 old men. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards uncontrollably. Warmth spread in her heart. It was her fortune to have these 2 elders who cared about her and thought for her. She would never let Old Man Gui Yu and Ghost Doctor leave the Heavenly Academy. After the discussion, the 2 of them finally let Yiqing Luo leave with the messenger. Yiqing Luo looked at the disheveled and injured director as her long and narrow eyes rose slightly. Before she opened her mouth, the messenger beside her had already said, Dean's action today is against the teacher's ethics. I represent the upper profound hall to inform Dean to stop whatever you are doing and go to the ancestral hall to reflect for 3 days. Director suddenly raised his head. Miss Messenger, this can't be. There are many things in the academy, and if I'm not around the academy, there are many things to do in the academy. There are naturally these 2 seniors and many elders to help. The emissary left no room for discussion. 3 days from now, if the temple master thinks you can leave the ancestral hall, then we'll talk about it. The dean's face was ashen. He had even brought out the hall master. If he didn't obey, the palace master had every right to kill him. 3 days, in less than 3 days. He had been the dean for so many years. Even if he had to face the wall for 3 days, the academy would not be able to overturn the heavens. The emissary shot a glance behind him. The 2 guards from the upper mystic hall understood and stood on the left and right side of the dean. Dean, please. At the entrance of the Xianxia ancestral hall, Old Man Gui Yu and Ghost Doctor saw them off. When they reached the door, they stopped. If one entered the ancestral hall without permission, he would be punished by the ancestors of the Heavenly Academy. In fact, it was the backlash of the upper profound hall's spirit formation. Following the envoy, Zhou Xian entered the ancestral hall. The headmaster was assigned to the furthest corner of the ancestral hall. He knelt in front of the memorial tablets and copied the Book of Teachers' Virtues. When he saw Yiqing Luo following the envoy into the inner hall, his eyes were filled with hatred. Yiqing Luo totally disregarded him. 3 days. Imprisoned for 3 days. Did he think that 3 days later, there would still be a place that belonged to him? Would she give him this chance? Chapter 2182. The messenger had been paying attention to Yiqing Luo's expression right from the start. He was very interested in this girl who seemed to have everything under control, as if everything was under her control. He wanted to know what this young lady was thinking about. Her calmness. Was it because she was in control of everything? Or was it because she was simple-minded and didn't think about anything, so she wasn't afraid? Of course, from Yiqing Luo's temperament, the messenger chose to believe the former. But so far he hadn't seen any special shining spot on Yiqing Luo. Till now, he saw a different expression on Yiqing Luo's face. What kind of smile was that? Crafty like a fox and extremely charming. He clearly knew that she must be plotting something in her heart. But he was unable to develop any sense of disgust. On the contrary, he felt that this young lady's craftiness was extremely terrifying. This was an extremely terrifying charisma. Messenger keeps staring at me. Is there something on my face? The young lady's smiling voice was heard by the side of his ear. The messenger suddenly regained his senses. In front of him was a radiant smiling face. Her face was devastatingly beautiful and peerless. The messenger's brows twitched as he hurriedly retracted his gaze. I've long heard that student Yiqing Luo is devastatingly beautiful, so it's indeed so. Yiqing Luo smiled. Even the messenger likes this look of mine, so I'm sure the Hall Lord will like it too. The messenger was stunned as he concealed the expression between his brows. He didn't say another word as he re-evaluated Yiqing Luo. This young lady was indeed not an ordinary person. No wonder she was able to attract the attention of the Hall Lord, to personally summon her. The messenger maintained his silence. Yiqing Luo didn't intentionally pursue further. She looked as though she was obediently following beside the messenger, but in actual fact, she had already drawn the route which she had taken into her mind as a map. After stepping into the inner hall, it was another long and dark corridor. Yiqing Luo had not expected that the ancestral hall, which seemed to be the smallest courtyard in Heavenly Academy, was actually so spacious. It was divided into several inner courtyards. After turning the long corridor, Yiqing Luo followed the messenger into a house at the end. Inside the house it was dark and gloomy. And there wasn't anything placed, it was extremely spacious. Yiqing Luo surveyed the surroundings and looked at the messenger in puzzlement. Not waiting for her to ask, the messenger had already walked to the front as his fingertips slashed across his wrist. A drop of blood dripped down. He quickly formed a hand seal. Following that, he turned his head towards Yiqing Luo. Student Yiqing Luo, please hold on tight to me. When Yiqing Luo heard that, she immediately understood. This place is the reverse barrier, right? As she asked, she grabbed the sleeve of the messenger's robe. He followed the envoy into the room. Yiqing Luo could clearly feel her body brushing against something cold. This feeling was exactly the same as when he had passed through the reverse spirit formation last time. You know about the reverse enchantment? After passing through the enchantment, the envoy looked at Yiqing Luo in astonishment. There shouldn't be anyone in the Nirvana realm who knows about traditional barriers and reverse barriers. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. Last time, when she pretended to be controlled and followed Pharaoh He to the base camp of the Dark Forces, she had experienced the reverse ward. Old Man Tsung had taught her before. The reverse spirit formation was actually a spirit formation similar to an illusion technique. Without the secret technique of combining with the reverse barrier, this room was just an ordinary black room. He used a secret technique to enter the room. It was the true hidden place after arriving at this room. Chapter 2183. Upper Profound Hall. Yiqing Luo sized up the surrounding environment. This upper profound hall was different from what she had imagined. Hidden in the ancestral hall was a powerhouse. Yiqing Luo thought that this was a powerhouse who hid in the dark and didn't dare to be seen. The upper profound hall would also be pitch black, eerie, and extremely terrifying. But this magnificent scene in front of her was brightly lit and extremely flourishing. Yiqing Luo totally couldn't imagine it. This was a scene which could be seen in an ancestral hall which was specially used to display memorial tablets. Student Yiqing Luo, this way please. The messenger saw Yiqing Luo looking left and right with her eyes filled with astonishment as his lips twitched. No matter how intelligent this young lady was. After all, she was only a 15-year-old child. Seeing such a splendid and magnificent hall, it was inevitable that she would reveal this kind of expression. Yiqing Luo's attention was on the surrounding scenery and didn't notice the messenger's thoughts. Of course, even if she noticed, she was too lazy to explain. If the upper profound hall's people treated her as an ordinary 15-year-old young lady to bluff, this was also quite good. She could even pretend to be a pig to eat the tiger. She followed the messenger all the way. Along the way, this hall was all splendid and magnificent with a grand style. Yiqing Luo inexplicably thought of God Thief. If God Thief was around, he would definitely think of ways and means to move all the things here away. Thinking of God Thief's eyes shining, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but laughed out loud. What are you laughing at? The messenger saw Yiqing Luo laughing out of nowhere as he looked at her and asked. Yiqing Luo raised her head and met the messenger's gaze. Her eyeballs rolled as she changed the topic. Messenger, I'm thinking. Is it possible that every academy's ancestral hall is hiding a powerhouse like yours? What kind of powerhouse is Upper Profound Hall? The messenger looked at her in amusement. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she replied seriously. I feel that. This should be like a controlling, restricting existence. The messenger became interested. Oh? Why do you say so? Yiqing Luo's slender brows arched. This is like. Nirvana realm has 4 continents, and each continent not only has its own dynasty, it also has its own sect. It's like all the existences are mutually balancing and restraining each other. Pausing for a moment, Yiqing Luo continued. Let's take the simplest example. In our 4 major sects, each sect has a sect elder. This sect elder is equivalent to the Heavenly Academy's Heavenly Hall, and is the existence that restrains and checks the Heavenly Academy. Ahaha. Student Yiqing Luo is indeed extraordinary. The envoy couldn't help but laughed out loud. This was the first time he had heard of such a saying. But it was undeniable that Yiqing Luo's guess was correct. Every academy did indeed have its own halls. The existence of the hall masters. It was the same as being an elder of a sect. It was all for the sake of restraining the dean and the elders. This was to prevent people with ulterior motives from using the academy to harm the balance of the Nirvana realm. The emissary did not deny it. Yiqing Luo knew that what she said was right. She chuckled softly. Her eyes no longer had the amazement when she first saw the magnificent palace. On the contrary, they were extremely calm and indifferent. Nirvana realm is merely the lowest grade realm, but it has troubled so many people from the upper realm to guard this place for decades or even centuries. She met the messenger's eyes and suddenly laughed. You people from the upper realm really put in a lot of effort for Nirvana realm. The expression on the messenger's face changed slightly. Chapter 2184. Yiqing Luo didn't continue the topic. She took the lead and walked towards the front. The envoy's expression congealed slightly as he stared at Yiqing Luo's leisurely back view for some time before he took a step forward and followed up. This time round, the envoy's gaze towards Yiqing Luo was filled with probing intent. There were several times when he wanted to ask Yiqing Luo how much she knew about the upper realm and Nirvana realm. But before he opened his mouth, Yiqing Luo would always point to something by the side and ask him. Not long later, they had walked for about 2 joss sticks worth of time on the journey. The envoy stopped outside the inner hall as he stretched out his hand to stop Yiqing Luo. He saw the envoy rushing into the inner hall as he bowed slightly. Hall master, student Yiqing Luo is here. A deep and melodious voice rang in the hall. Come in. That voice didn't sound old. It was a man's voice. The envoy took a step back as he stretched out his hand towards Yiqing Luo and spoke in a low voice. Student Yiqing Luo, please. Looking at the tightly shut inner hall door, Yiqing Luo pointed to herself. Am I going in alone? This is the hall master's bedroom and he doesn't allow anyone to go near his bedroom, so this envoy can only send you here. Bedroom, bedroom, bedroom. Was he sure he wasn't teasing her? What did this hall master mean? Meeting a 15-year-old young lady in his own bedroom? Didn't he say that no one was allowed to go near his bedroom? Then why did he still let her in? Seeing Yiqing Luo still in a daze, the envoy urged her in a low voice. Student Yiqing Luo, hall master is waiting for you inside. Why aren't you going in? Yiqing Luo took a look at the bedroom door and looked at the envoy. That? You don't have any guest hall, a hall in the meeting hall? The envoy heard Yiqing Luo's implied meaning. His bright little eyes squinted into a slit as his shriveled lips cracked into a smile. Student Yiqing Luo, please be assured, no matter how useless hall master is, he would not be so desperate as to lay his hands on a young lady. Moreover, he slowly bent down and leaned towards Yiqing Luo as he lowered his voice. Our hall master hates women. Yiqing Luo expressed that she had never met their hall master before, so who knew if his words were true or false. The emissary didn't want to waste any more time with her. He bowed deeply in the direction of the sleeping chamber before retreating. Hey, why did you leave just like that? If you leave so decisively, I will be even more suspicious that your hall master is coveting my beauty, and you are working together to trick me. Yiqing Luo immediately shouted behind him. But after leaving the emissary, she didn't know how to use the reverse barrier fusion secret technique. Before he could catch up, the envoy's figure had already disappeared in front of Yiqing Luo's eyes. Yiqing Luo didn't even manage to grab the corner of his robe. Lady Yi, you don't have to worry. You're still too young for me. I don't have the hobby of laying my hands on little girls. The deep voice of the hall master could be heard once again. As for the matter of coveting your beauty, it's not up to me. Yiqing Luo. Not his turn. Did they have to take turns to peek at her beauty? She expressed that she didn't understand the hallmaster's words. If Miss Yi doesn't wish to come in, then let's talk through the door. The hallmaster seemed as though he was compromising, but his words were filled with ridicule. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists. Let her stand at the door to accompany him to talk? Chapter 2185. Yiqing Luo didn't hesitate anymore as she pushed open the bedroom door and walked in. The moment the bedroom door opened, Yiqing Luo felt a gush of extremely intense profound energy, like water ripples, following the outline of her figure, spreading outwards. She could clearly feel the flow of the airflow. She was slightly stunned as she squinted her eyes. She only had time to catch a trace of profound qi lingering in the air. Very quickly it disappeared into thin air. Las Luo. In her mind, Old Man Song's anxious voice suddenly rang. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she subconsciously responded, Old Man Song, why did you come out? I couldn't sense you earlier until now. I finally got in touch with you. You are now. Old Man Song said anxiously. Suddenly his voice paused as he sensed Yiqing Luo's current location. Where are you? Yiqing Luo subconsciously narrated what had happened earlier in a concise and comprehensive manner. Unexpectedly, after entering the profound ancestral hall, her connection with Old Man Song was cut off. That meant to say, after entering the profound hall would suppress her mental power. This was like her in the 21st century, where her mental power was deliberately suppressed, unable to summon sacred beasts and unable to sense Old Man Song. It was the same logic. Why after entering the bedroom, the suppression of the profound hall on her mental power disappeared? Earlier when she pushed the door open, she felt the fluctuation of profound qi. It seemed to be the feeling of the enchantment. Come in, Miss Yi. The man's voice seemed to be close to her ear. Yiqing Luo followed the voice and passed through the screen. The surroundings were decorated with 2 luminous pearls, extremely bright. It also lit up the sleeping quarters clearly. The style of the sleeping chamber was completely different from the golden splendor outside. In this bedroom there was only a bed that was big enough for 3 people to roll around on, a wooden desk and a bookshelf filled with thousands of books, a 4-cornered mahogany tea table and 2 mahogany chairs. Other than that there was nothing else. Simple, it couldn't be any simpler. A slender and handsome figure sat by the tea table, one hand holding the teapot, elegantly pouring tea. Yiqing Luo walked closer. The man in front of the table became even clearer. The man was wearing a loose bamboo-colored robe. He didn't have a belt around his waist, so it hung loosely on his body. It made his tall and slender figure look even more incomparably thin. The man's long black hair was untied. His face was like a crown of jade and he was extremely handsome. His eyes were like cold stars, flickering with a complicated light that no one could understand. He looked like a banished immortal, carefree, unrestrained and extremely lazy. If one were to say that he was handsome. After seeing Dmo Xian Zhu Wu Exen, as well as Devil Class's pile of handsome boys. To be honest, the palace master's appearance was not particularly handsome. However, he had a unique temperament that no one could imitate. The palace master's bamboo robe fluttered as his slender fingers landed on the seat opposite him. Miss Yi, please take a seat. Yiqing Luo walked over and sat opposite him. The hall master pushed a cup of tea over. Have some tea. Yiqing Luo didn't say a word as her gaze sized up the hall master. He picked up the teacup deep in thought. She was an alchemist herself, so she wasn't worried that the hall master would tamper with the tea. Moreover, the hall master had no need to do so. Chapter 2186. Third person. Yiqing Luo's hand paused. She squinted her eyes and released her senses. Other than this man who looked like an immortal, she didn't sense any other presence. She couldn't sense any presence, so there were only 2 results. 1. There was only her and hall master in this room. 2. The third person's ability surpassed her by more than 1 profound grade. Yiqing Luo could totally eliminate the first possibility. Old Man Song wouldn't lie to her, nor would he joke about such things. Then, there was only the second possibility. The third person's ability was definitely higher than her by 1 profound grade. That's right, profound grade. She was now an Earth profound grade cultivator. That third person's profound grade was the lowest, which was above Earth profound. Which was a legend. Legend had it that he would turn into 15 grades. Virtuous profound grade cultivator. Such a powerful person. Why would he hide in a corner of this bedroom? Did Hallmaster know about it or not? What's the matter? Hallmaster raised his eyes as his gaze deepened. Yiqing Luo put down the teacup. I'm here not to ask for a cup of tea. What's the matter that Hallmaster is looking for me for? Please tell me clearly. She didn't intentionally mention the third person in the room, but pretended not to notice anything as she spoke calmly. Envoy forgot to tell you earlier. Heavenly Academy's Gui Yu and Ghost Doctor have already said that if I don't return safely from the Ancestral Hall within a short period of time, they will immediately bring their men in charge into the Ancestral Hall. Her pink lips rose into a radiant smile. I believe Hallmaster doesn't wish for the enchantment which you have meticulously set up to be broken. And the peace which Hallmaster has been wanting for a long time, and the days of not bothering about worldly affairs, will also come to an end. Every single word she said was extremely incisive. It sounded as though she was thinking for Heavenly Profound Palace for Hallmaster. But obviously she was threatening Hallmaster. Upon hearing this, a calm smile appeared on the Hall leader's handsome face. His cold eyes were fixated on Yiqing Luo's radiant smile. After looking at each other for some time, he opened his mouth. You're observant indeed. There's no need to observe at all. As long as you use your brain a little, you'll be able to think of it. Yiqing Luo smiled. Hall Lord is the balance force of the Heavenly Academy, but what the director had done for so many years, Hall Lord should be clear about it. The palace master raised his teacup and took a sip. Then he smiled faintly and said, Are you complaining to me? Oh. Yiqing Luo wasn't that senseless to complain about the director. Hall Master is looking for me. It shouldn't be because of the director's matter, right? The Temple Lord leaned lazily on the back of the soft chair. The Heavenly Academy has produced an outstanding student and is hailed as the heroine of the West Continent and even the Nirvana realm. As the Temple Lord of the Heavenly Palace, I naturally want to meet you, the heroine. Yiqing Luo was not alarmed by the favor or humiliation as she looked at him with a smile. Let me remind Hall Master that your time is running out. The palace master's hand froze. His peripheral vision glanced at Yiqing Luo, as though he was investigating the truth of Yiqing Luo's words. Yiqing Luo's lips curled upwards as she returned a radiant smile. Pa. As expected of a heroine. With such a temperament, she is indeed worthy of the title, heroine. The palace master laughed out loud. Yiqing Luo could tell. He was ridiculing her. Ridiculing her for thinking too highly of herself. Chapter 2187. Upper Profound Palace Lord's laughter slowly came to a stop. His apathetic gaze, this time, was seriously scrutinizing the young lady in front of him. It was simply unimaginable. Such a young lady. She was actually able to deal with him so calmly under his intentionally flamboyant aura. This young lady wasn't afraid of him. Not afraid of his identity. Even though she knew that his ability was way above hers. What gave her the confidence to be so sure that he wouldn't hurt her? If Yiqing Luo knew what the Palace Lord was thinking about, she would definitely roll her eyes at the Palace Lord. Whatever imposing aura, it wouldn't scare her at all. One must know that under Zhou Xian's powerful aura, she directly held him hostage and laid her hands on him. What else was there for her to be afraid of? After a moment of silence, the Palace Lord finally gave up and put down the teacup in his hand. Miss Yi, you're really an unfathomable young lady. Yiqing Luo smiled sweetly. Palace Lord, don't fall in love with me. Don't forget that you said that you're not after my beauty. Ha ha ha. The Palace Lord laughed out once again. He looked at Yiqing Luo's eyes and said word by word, Miss Yi, do you want to know your background? Background? Yiqing Luo's smile froze. What do you mean? Regarding your background, this Palace Lord happens to know a little. The Palace Lord propped his chin leisurely as he looked at her with a smile which didn't look like a smile. After this Palace Lord found out about your background, I really wanted to tell you about this, so I specially summoned you to Upper Profound Palace. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. She stared at the Palace Lord's face, trying to see if what he said was true or false. But she totally couldn't tell what the Palace Lord's expression meant. Her background? The Palace Lord knew about her background? What on earth did he know that made him specially appear in Heavenly Academy, requesting to meet her in public? The Palace Lord squinted his cold eyes as he looked deeply at her and said word by word, In your body, there is a divine phoenix profound heart jade, am I right? His words made Yiqing Luo's heart thumped. On the surface, she pretended to be puzzled as she fluttered her long eyelashes. Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade? What is that? I won't tell you what it is. The palace master chuckled. In short, according to this Profound Heart Jade, you can find your birth parents. He paused for a moment, then suddenly propped himself up and pressed his fingers against his chin, closing the distance between them. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you, if you want to find your biological parents, you have to go to the upper realm. Yiqing Luo frowned. What are you trying to say? I'm just reminding you that as a human from the lower realm, if you want to go to the upper realm, your strength must be promoted to the peak of the 3rd level of the Sage Profound Realm and above. Only then can the Historian of Heaven's Path verify the stability of your profound rank. Then the Historian of Heaven's Path can bring you to the upper realm. The palace master smiled again. However, with your current aptitude, if you're lucky, 5 or 10 years would be possible for you to reach the Sage Profound Realm. If you're unlucky, it might be 50 or 100 years. So what's the second way? Yiqing Luo didn't beat around the bush with him. Since the palace master had already made it so clear, there was no need for her to hide her intention of going to the upper realm. But she absolutely could not let anyone know about the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. The second way. Chapter 2188. Yiqing Luo's back stiffened. The third person in the room, the one whom she couldn't detect, was right behind her. She suppressed the urge to turn her head and examine, not revealing her inner panic on her face. The only thing she could confirm was that the hall master and the third person definitely knew each other. But why didn't the third person show himself? Why must he hide in the room? Whether he was a friend or foe, she wasn't sure. She could only pretend to be calm, trying her best not to alert the enemy. Miss, you need not be nervous. The second method which I mentioned may be difficult for ordinary people, but if it's Miss Yi, it should be. As compared to the first method, it should be easier. Hall master smiled slightly. Yiqing Luo's pink lips pursed slightly. This hall master of Upper Profound Palace's observational ability was indeed incredible. She was extremely confident in the subject of camouflage. But hall master could still see some clues. He could tell that she was nervous at that moment. The powerhouses outside of Nirvana realm were so powerful that it made her excited. It also made her have the thought of rushing to the upper realm. Even if there wasn't any background, it pointed to the upper realm. He would definitely head to the upper realm. Because the power in Nirvana realm, even if she stood on the peak, she would not be satisfied. What she wanted was to become even stronger. The road to the strong was endless. Only to limit herself to Nirvana realm. That would be too unambitious. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath as she completely calmed down her emotions in her heart. Her lips curled upwards as she smiled sweetly. Hall master has been keeping me in suspense. After all, this is a secret which basically no one in the entire Nirvana realm knows about. Hall master propped his chin as he sized Yiqing Luo up. So what does Hall master want? He had been keeping her in suspense because he wanted to get the corresponding exchange item from her. Which was the real reason why Hall master specially summoned her to Upper Profound Palace. Hall master looked at Yiqing Luo as he said word by word, "What I want is very simple. After saying this, you will sit in this bedroom alone." 1 hour later. Alone? Sit for 1 hour? Was there something wrong with this hall master's brain? What kind of request was this? Or does the palace master have some other scheme? Or perhaps the palace master was giving the third person in the room a chance to make a move on her? You don't have to worry, this palace master will not seek trouble. Although the ghost doctor and Gui, you are not as powerful as this palace master, but if we really fight, this palace master will not be able to gain any advantage. Hall master seemed to have seen through Yiqing Luo's guess as he added another sentence. As for the motive, you don't need to ask any further. Even if she asked, he might not answer. An hour? Counting it, there was still an hour before the agreed time with Ghost Doctor and Old Man Guiyu. Wasn't it just sitting here by himself? It was a good opportunity for her to see what the palace master's motive was. She nodded. All right. The hall master revealed a smile as though he had long guessed that Yiqing Luo would agree. He did not beat around the bush and said bluntly, "There is another way, and that is to collect the 4 sacred beast pearls. Once you have collected all the sacred beast pearls, you will be able to open the portal to the upper realm." Sacred beast pearl? Yiqing Luo recalled the 2 growing sacred beasts in her pet space. This sacred beast pearl. How do I get it? Could it be? This sacred beast pearl was hidden in the 4 great sacred beasts' bodies? She had to kill the sacred beasts before she could obtain the sacred beast pearl? Chapter 2189. Hall Master who saw through Yiqing Luo's imagination. This young lady's imagination was simply too wild. When did he say that he wanted to kill the sacred beast to obtain the sacred beast bead? Hall Master's lips twitched slightly as he patiently tried his best to finish his words. As for where the sacred beast bead is and how to obtain it, there's someone who can answer you. Who? Yiqing Luo frowned. Hall Master remained silent for a moment and suddenly asked another topic. Miss Yi, devil class which you are in seems to be the champion of this year's inter-class competition, right? Yes. Hall Master smiled. In the inter-class competition, the class who obtains the champion will have the chance to enter the class of gods to undergo their special training. What has this got to do with the sacred beast bead? Yiqing Luo expressed that Hall Master's train of thought floated too fast and she couldn't keep up. Hall Master mysteriously leaned back on the soft chair. Of course it has something to do with it. Whatever you want to know, there's a student in the class of gods who knows it best. Furthermore, she also knows the precise location of the sacred beast bead. Who is it? Yiqing Luo somehow felt that she was being led by the nose. Go there and you'll naturally know. After Hall Master finished his words, he suddenly stood up. A loose, bamboo-colored robe rolled down like a waterfall from 1,000 miles away. Alright, the second method this Hall Master has already told you, then. Now please abide by the request that you've promised me and sit here alone. This Hall Master still has some matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Yiqing Luo. What was he trying to do? She heaved a heavy sigh as she raised her head and looked at him seriously. Hall Master, aren't you afraid that I'll tear down your bedroom? You won't have that chance and you won't have that time. Hall Master calmly threw down this sentence and really walked out of the bedroom without any intention of turning back. No chance. No time. Where did his confidence come from? She really wanted to tear down this bedroom. Could he stop her? But Hall Master's words obviously didn't mean this. The chance and time that he mentioned must have another meaning. In her mind, a thought formed. In the bedroom there was a deathly silence. Yiqing Luo restrained the deep look in her eyes as she stared at the untouched teacup on the table. Her consciousness was calling out to Old Man Tsong. Old Man Tsong, is there anyone else in the bedroom other than me? Old Man Tsong quickly replied, yes, the third person is still in the room. As expected, a cold glint flashed past Yiqing Luo's eyes. Her pink lips curled up slightly as she placed one hand on the mahogany table, her index finger lightly clasped together. The rhythmic sound was like one thunderclap after another, striking down. This strange atmosphere continued for a while. The girl's unique and sweet voice echoed in the sleeping chamber. Sir, I don't have much time left. If you insist on hiding in the dark and remain silent, then please let me leave. Her voice reverberated faintly in the empty space. Ethereal and ethereal, clear and pleasant to the ear. There was still silence in the bedroom. Yiqing Luo's fingers paused. Then she stood up without hesitation and walked towards the entrance of the sleeping chambers. Whoosh! A gust of air current struck and blocked in front of Yiqing Luo. The air current landed on the ground beside Yiqing Luo's feet and instantly the ground cracked. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes to look at the broken hole as her lips twitched in ridicule. Can't hold it in anymore? In the bedroom the air was fluctuating. Yiqing Luo's naked eye could clearly see the profound qi ripples in the air. Like waves of turbulent waves. Chapter 2190. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes but her legs didn't move. Yiqing Luo, how did you know? I'm here. The youth's cold voice had a hint of evil in it. This familiar voice made Yiqing Luo's petite body stiffen slightly. She frowned and quickly turned around. Behind him stood a young man in a crimson robe. His extraordinarily handsome face was the kind of unique charm that could attract all eyes the moment he appeared. But when the line of sight fell on his body, his entire body was emitting an ice-cold aura, causing others to not dare to approach him, to not dare to profane him. His ink-like hair was tied loosely with a silk ribbon of the same color as the one he was wearing. Occasionally, a few strands of hair would fall in front of his forehead, but it didn't diminish his elegance in the slightest. Instead, it softened the cold lines on his face. Looking at it, it was no longer so cold that it made people feel like they were digging into their bones. When Yiqing Luo saw the young man's face clearly, The expression on her face turned slightly chilly. Noticing the change in Yiqing Luo's expression, the young man's brows creased tightly. He could tell that Yiqing Luo didn't want to see him. The young man's aura also froze. A cold glint flashed in his pitch-black eagle eyes, as if he wanted to freeze her completely. He stared at Yiqing Luo and suddenly lifted his leg, walking towards her. The crimson robe rolled along with his footsteps. Like raging flames. Looked like a moving block of ice walking on fire. This was obviously out of place, but on him, there wasn't any sense of incongruity at all, making Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased even tighter. She pursed her lips and said unhappily, Zhou Wuxian, why are you here? Wasn't this person in front of him Zhou Xian? Why was he here? He was the third person in the bedroom. What was his relationship with the hall master? It was me. I asked Archer to borrow the identity of the upper profound hall to summon you here. Zhou Xian didn't deny it as his serene cold eyes looked at Yiqing Luo calmly. Archer? That was the name of the hall master, right? Calling him so intimately, he and the palace master were indeed good friends. What exactly do you want to do? Yiqing Luo didn't like the feeling of being schemed against. She had already made it clear to Zhou Wuxian previously at the Three Springs sect. Why was Zhou Wuxian still pestering him? To actually use such a method. Zhou Wuxian closed in step by step as he walked right in front of Yiqing Luo, as the tip of his shoe touched the tip of her shoe. Yiqing Luo's brows creased as she lowered her eyes to look at his foot, which was pressing against the tip of her shoe. Zhou Wuxian, don't you feel that you're very childish? She did not retreat in fright as Zhou Wuxian had expected. Instead, she was expressionless. No, to be more accurate, she was looking up at him with a hint of annoyance. The distance between them was so close that they could still feel each other's breath. The two red robes also overlapped with each other, appearing to be a perfect fit. All Zhou Wuxian had to do was take a step forward. His kiss could fall on her face. Their eyes met, both calm. I don't think so. Zhou Wuxian's cold voice was emotionless. Yiqing Luo sneered. Then do you think there's any meaning in your pestering behavior? Yes, he answered calmly. Yiqing Luo, what's the point? Interesting person, he seemed to be the only one. Zhou Wuxian's deep gaze was fixed on her as his voice was chilly. I've said this before, unless you die, otherwise I will not let you off. He enunciated each and every word clearly. Chapter 2191. Yiqing Luo only had one thought in her mind right now. Damn it, this Zhou Wuxian was really sick. And it was the kind that was seriously sick. Zhou Wuxian indifferently bent over as his scorching hot breath splashed onto Yiqing Luo's face with a swoosh. It was different from Dmo Xian's elegant sandalwood fragrance. Zhou Wuxian's body had an extremely light plum fragrance. The smell wasn't unpleasant. But Yiqing Luo, who wasn't used to other men getting so close to her, couldn't help but frowned. She raised her hand and flipped her palm, holding the glower flame fan's handle as she pressed it against Zhou Wuxian's chest. Step back. Zhou Wuxian's brows drooped as he squinted at that exquisite fan handle on his chest. Following that, he continued to press down on her expressionlessly. An unfamiliar man's presence instantly enveloped her entire body. Yiqing Luo's eyes congealed. You think I don't dare to make a move on you? Yiqing Luo, you won't. Zhou Wuxian's cold tone was extremely certain as he spoke. His deep eyes stared at Yiqing Luo's furious face without blinking. I know you won't. Yiqing Luo's belly full of anger, not knowing why, when she met Zhou Wuxian's eyes, it inexplicably dissipated. She lowered her head as her slender fingers clenched slightly. Her curly long lashes under her charming eyes projected an arc-shaped shadow. Why was his gaze so firm? As though he understood her very well. But Yiqing Luo had to admit. What he said was right. She wouldn't really make a move on Zhou Wuxian. No matter if it was on account of the original owner Xiaoqing Luo and Zhou Wuxian's relationship. And it was on account of the few times he had risked his life to save her. She owed Zhou Wuxian too many favors. If she really made a move on Zhou Wuxian, she wouldn't be a human. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly as she took a deep breath and took the lead to retreat a few steps, widening the distance between her and Zhou Wuxian. What on earth do you want? To make you fall in love with me again. Zhou Wuxian replied calmly. Yiqing Luo was dumbstruck. After some time she regained her senses and met Zhou Wuxian's extremely resolute gaze as she spoke seriously. I've never loved you before, not to mention again. Yes. Zhu Wuxia stared at her as stubborn as a child. Yiqing Luo, no matter how you deny it, the matter of you and I pledging to be married privately is a fact. In his mind, the scene of Xiaoqing Luo and Chu Wuxia, privately pledging to be together, appeared. Yiqing Luo gritted her teeth so hard that they almost broke. At that time, Qing Luo was only 10 years old. What private pledge of marriage? It didn't count at all. Was Zhou Xian abducting an underage child? In her time, he would be sentenced. Outside, you will always be accompanied by the dark guards arranged by that guy. My words will be relayed to that guy through the dark guards' mouths. I want to be alone with you, just the two of us. We won't be disturbed and we won't be watched. Zhou Xian stared at her with a rare seriousness in his eyes. Yiqing Luo was stunned. Was he talking about Tang Beiyuan? Had Zhou Xian already discovered Tang Beiyuan's existence in the Yuqi clan's courtyard? He knew that Tang Beiyuan would pass his news to Zhou Xian. Was that why he chose to leave? Did his words mean that Tang Beiyuan had no way to follow him into the upper profound hall? There's only you and me here. Zhu Wuxian's lips curled into an extremely shallow arc. Chapter 2192. Yiqing Luo. He was certain that his good friend Ache wasn't cheating his teammate? Such a blind idea. Zhu Wuxian still felt that it was useful. Have a seat. Zhu Wuxian saw Yiqing Luo still standing at the original spot, her features twitching as he opened his mouth. I will try my best to be gentle. If you don't like anything, I will change. Grabbed a big grass? Had Zhu Wuxian taken the wrong medicine? Just a moment ago he was still arrogant and cold, feeling that he wasn't childish and felt that his actions were very interesting. The next moment he had turned into a warm man, although his expression was still as cold as ice without a single warm feeling. But to be able to say such words like, if you don't like it, I will change. To Zhu Wuxian this was absolutely considered as warm. Yiqing Luo, I asked you to sit down. Zhu Wuxian thought that he was warm, to the extent that he couldn't bear to look at her. But that woman was still standing there in a daze, not even looking at him. After being bellowed by Zhu Wuxian, Yiqing Luo suddenly regained her senses as she turned her head to look at Zhu Wuxian. Her body instinctively sat back on the soft chair. Drink some tea. Zhu Wuxian frowned as he grabbed a teacup from the table and poured a cup of tea for Yiqing Luo. He even conveniently took away the teacup which was previously poured by the hall master. Yiqing Luo expressed that this way of his, would it really make a lady have a good impression towards him? Anyway, she definitely wouldn't. Yiqing Luo once again felt that Upper Profound Palace Hall Master was a scumbag who had the ability to cheat his teammates. Outside the door, a certain hall master who was ridiculed by Yiqing Luo felt his nose itching. He took a look at the tightly shut bedroom door and with a flash he was already one hall away from the bedroom. After he was sure that he was far enough away, the palace master leaned against a glazed pillar and sneezed a few times in a row. He rubbed his nose as he had a faint feeling of sneezing. Looks like that lass is scolding you. Suddenly, a clear and melodious voice was heard from behind. When the hall master heard that, his brows rose as he laughed. This hall master thought that you had already gone back. You tricked Wuxian like this. If Wuxian knew, how would she treat you? The woman smiled faintly. The palace master's cold eyes narrowed slightly. I'm obviously helping him. Otherwise, how would he have the chance to be alone with Lady Yi? The woman chuckled, but there was no meaning hidden in her laughter. The palace master glanced in the direction of the sleeping quarters and stretched. Don't worry, I won't favor one and discriminate against the other. I helped Wuxin trick Miss Yi into coming here, so naturally I'll help you pass on what you want her to know. Hearing this, the woman's eyes flickered. She didn't stay any longer. With a turn, her figure merged into the air. Hey, you threw it away after using it. You didn't even say a word of thanks. Don't run. My sleeping chamber has been robbed and I'm bored out of my mind. No matter how the palace master shouted behind him, he only had time to see a streak of icy blue flowing light turn into many afterimages and disappear in a flash. Inside the bedroom, the two of them sat facing each other, speechless, staring at each other. After a moment later, Yiqing Luo couldn't take it anymore. Zhu Wuxian. If there's nothing else, I'm going back to the academy. No way, I haven't finished drinking my tea. Seeing Yi Qingluo's impatient look, Zhu Xian's deep eyes dimmed slightly. Chapter 2193. No way. Chu Wuxian rejected her decisively as he looked at her without blinking. It's not time yet, I like to stay with you. His eyes were still as cold as ever. But Yi Qingluo could sense it acutely. Under the icy coldness there were hidden thick feelings. Her heart trembled fiercely. His cold attitude had also softened slightly. Chu Wuxian was serious towards her. Chu Wuxian saw that she wasn't sitting down, so he stood up as well. Yi Qingluo, don't be unhappy, you originally belonged to me. Chu Wuxian said calmly as his deep eyes gazed deeply at Yi Qingluo. He looked at Yi Qingluo for some time. Suddenly he raised his hand, wiping away the tea stains on the corner of her lips. The man's calloused fingertips brushed past her lips. This action shocked Yi Qingluo so much that she kept retreating. Her expression changed slightly as she used one hand to cover her skin which had been touched. Chu Wuxian, I've already told you many times. The past matters can only be in the past is the past. Moreover, who I belong to, it's not up to you to decide. Chu Wuxian's hand hung in midair. His fingers still had remnants of a lady's soft touch. His fingers trembled as he closed them slightly. By his ear was a young lady's sullen voice. Chu Wuxian's expression didn't change as he looked at her indifferently. Chu Wuxian, when I was 10 years old, I admit that I was very happy when I interacted with you. But that was merely happiness as a friend. Yi Qingluo was once the trash 7th Missy. After my mother passed away, there were only Ziling and Xiao Yu left in my life. You appeared at that time, becoming the 4th person in my life who treated me sincerely. Yi Qingluo bit her lower lip tightly as her charming eyes locked onto Chu Wuxian. Today she must make things clear to Chu Wuxian. No matter if Chu Wuxian could hear it or not. She still had to say what needed to be said. Chu Wuxian, under that kind of situation, the 10-year-old me towards you was just a kinship, a redeeming feeling. These have nothing to do with gender, nothing to do with sex. As for you, it's just because in so many years of bloody killings, it's rare to meet a little girl who is willing to take care of you, talk to you, and even show you the warmest smile. This is just your lonely heart playing tricks on you. What moved you was the me at that time, the warmth I gave you, not me. This was his opinion as a bystander of the memory. Actually, the two of us are very similar. Our tragic childhood caused us to want to give up everything to exchange for the slightest bit of warmth. We thought it was love. But in reality, even if it wasn't the other party, we would still be moved by this warmth. Chu Wuxian, for each other, the best way is to be friends and family, isn't it? Zhu Wuxian's gaze gradually deepened. His eyes, which were like deep pools, were swirling with bottomless whirlpools. Beside his ear he could hear her soft voice. He could tell that Yi Qingluo was extremely serious when she said these words. Friends, family. Zhu Wuxian laughed out loud. His cold voice and laughter seemed to be stained with ice. As he smiled, the coldness seeped into her heart bit by bit. His smile made Yi Qingluo stop her following words. But Yi Qingluo, I don't need friends, nor do I need family. Zhu Wuxian's tranquil eyes didn't have a single ripple. Chapter 2194. His smile made Yi Qingluo's heart tighten abruptly. He could tell. He was serious. Other than death, she would not be able to escape from his entanglement. Yi Qingluo stared at Zhu Wuxian as her long eyelashes fanned. Her pink lips moved slightly as she wanted to speak. Zhu Wuxian had already laughed without any hesitation. Yi Qingluo, who do you think you are? Do you think that you can guess everyone's thoughts? Who gave you the confidence to think that you are 100% able to guess my thoughts accurately? His words paused. Zhu Wuxian suddenly laughed lightly. His frosty brows curved into a curve from smiling. But that smile made one's heart turn cold. Or perhaps only by lying to yourself in this way will you feel that. You don't have that much guilt towards me? This sentence was like a sudden clap of thunder, exploding in Yi Qingluo's heart. Her body suddenly stiffened. But, Yi Qingluo, you don't let me live well, so how can I possibly let you put down the past, put down the promise you had made to me, and put down the guilt towards me? Zhu Wuxian's frozen eyes surged with a sliver of madness. Both his hands were propped on the mahogany table as he stared at Yi Qingluo's slightly astonished eyes, as he laughed word by word. You're not me, so how can you be so certain that I don't love you? Then I'm telling you very seriously now. I want you to become my wife and want to spend the rest of my life with you. This thought, ever since the first time I met you 5 years ago till now. I have never stopped having this thought. Yiqing Luo's fingers unconsciously curled up. Her little actions were all seen by Zhu Xian. His dark eyes stared intently at her eyes. Why are you flustered? Can't make up a whole set of reasons anymore? Zhu Xian. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled slightly as she stared at Zhu Xian's firm and deep black eyes. She didn't know what expression to use to deal with him. Not flustered. It wasn't that she couldn't continue with the main reason. But Zhu Xian's attitude caused her to lose confidence in her confident conjecture. Zhu Xian was smiling. His words were extremely ear-piercing. But Yiqing Luo could tell that in his smile, that thick bitterness. Zhu Xian was not someone who liked to smile. He had laughed countless times in front of her today. But that smile made one's heart ache. Moreover, although his words were meant to hurt her, but she could hear it. His words were full of thorns and they were his true thoughts. She had always felt that the Zhu Xian back then was only greedy for the warmth given by Xiaoqing Luo. But now, she couldn't be sure and even doubted her own guess. After some time, Yiqing Luo finally found her voice and it was slightly hoarse. Zhu Xian, in my heart. It's filled with one person and it can't contain anyone else. Possible, we can become friends, brothers and even relatives. Even if you force me to stay by your side, I can't give you the love you want. There are many ways to feel warmth and there are also many kinds of feelings. Other than love, I can give you all kinds of feelings. She looked at Zhu Xian, her voice still hoarse. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Zhu Xian, you and I can become very good friends. Zhu Xian did not speak. He quietly waited for her to finish her words. Her face was reflected in his deep eyes. He could clearly see the sincerity in her eyes. Friends. Brothers. Relatives. What she gave was really a huge temptation. Chapter 2195. Silence lasted for a long time. Zhu Xian seemed to be hesitating. Yiqing Luo gazed deeply at him. Her eyes were filled with sincerity and tranquility. Finally the man moved. His slender fingers which were resting on the table moved slightly. There was no joy or anger on the expression on his face, no emotions at all. A pair of icy cold eyes, quiet and serene as though it was a whirlpool. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely for no reason. As though there was a thin needle slowly piercing through her heart. Yiqing Luo's hands which were hanging by her sides, unknowingly curled up a little. Zhu Xian slowly stood up. Even though they were separated by a wooden table, Yiqing Luo could clearly sense the powerful pressure which Zhu Xian was emitting. Yiqing Luo, you know very well that what I want is not a friend. He looked at Yiqing Luo as he narrowed his icy cold eyes. His speed was very slow and his tone was very indifferent. His thin lips raised slightly, revealing an extremely shallow but incomparably elegant smile. Yiqing Luo's spine turned cold as she clenched her fists tightly, easing the uneasiness which was surging from the bottom of her heart as she looked at him. I don't need a friend, especially. I don't need a female friend. Zhu Xian laughed. His laughter was very light and his laughter was extremely ethereal. Yiqing Luo, you are destined to be either enemies or lovers with me. Was he forcing her to choose the way they interacted in the future? They were either enemies or lovers. Her love could not tolerate any sand in it. She loved Dmo Xian wholeheartedly and no one else could step in. So she could only choose to become enemies with Zhu Xian? Why? Must Zhu Xian be so stubborn? Why must he stubbornly try to find back the past? Trying to force someone who would not love him to be together with him. In this way, even if his forcefulness succeeded, would he really feel warm? Yiqing Luo was unable to understand Zhu Xian's stubbornness. Wasn't a friend better than an enemy? I will give you time to consider. Zhu Xian's eyes were filled with frost as he spoke word by word without any emotions. The next time we meet, the relationship between us. You decide. Yiqing Luo clenched her wide sleeves tightly. Time's up, you can leave now. Zhu Xian didn't stay any longer. He walked toward the tightly shut door of the sleeping chamber. He seemed to be running away from something. His pace was very fast. Not long later he was standing at the entrance of the hall. He raised his hand to open the door. A young girl's voice suddenly came from behind him. Zhu Xian. She was calling his name. Something seemed to be spreading in Zhou Xian's heart. It was a kind of panic, a kind of fear. It was a strange feeling that he couldn't get used to. He was afraid that Yiqing Luo would say out her answer now. The panicking Yiqing Luo didn't even give him the last chance between them. He wanted to lift his leg and leave this sleeping chamber. However, the sound of her calling his name kept echoing in his ears. His body was stiff, unable to move. Chu Wu Exin, no matter what you think in your heart, I've always treated you as my friend. You saved me, you saved little you for me, and Linger's kindness, I remember it all clearly. As long as you don't lay a hand on the people around me, I will always treat you as my best friend. In my heart there will always be a place for you. Yiqing Luo stared at his back as she spoke in a hoarse voice. She paused for a moment. Seeing that Zhu Wu Exin didn't turn around, but didn't leave the sleeping chamber directly. Chapter 2196. I don't deny the existence of that period of warmth in the past, because that is a memory that belongs to the both of us. You're a very, very intelligent person and you understand my character. And I believe that if I'm a fickle woman, to be able to love him and love you again, I believe that you will not have any other thoughts towards me. Zhu Wu Exion's back was extremely tensed. The icy cold pupils and the swirl in his eyes started to churn ferociously. He used a huge amount of energy before he could control his own emotions. The hands under his sleeves were clenched tightly into fists as green veins popped out. He shut his eyes and bit by bit he suppressed that pent-up feeling in his chest. Suddenly, a crimson figure turned into an afterimage as he charged towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo was still waiting for Zhu Wu Exion's reply. One shouldn't procrastinate over matters of the heart. She loved Zhou Xian and would only be together with him. No matter who or what, there was nothing that could stop her from loving Zhou Xian. So she didn't need any time to consider. Because there was no need to consider. But the next moment, Yiqing Luo's nose was filled with a rich plum fragrance. Before she could even react, her petite body was tightly held by an arm. His sturdy chest, along with an earth-shattering frost aura, directly pressed down on her. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she was slightly stunned as she raised her hand to support her chest which was pressing down. Zhu Wu Exin. In this aspect, women seemed to be innately unable to win against men. The man's strength was extremely huge. She couldn't struggle free at all. That icy cold chi seeped into her skin bit by bit. The familiar yet extremely unfamiliar plum fragrance cold chi enveloped her entire body. Yiqing Luo's face turned slightly pale as she tried her best to calm herself down. Zhu Wu Exin wouldn't really do anything to her. Zhu Wu Exin wouldn't do anything to her if she wasn't willing. She believed in Zhu Wu Exion's character and also believed that Zhu Wu Exin valued little Qing Luo. But before Yiqing Luo could brainwash herself to calm down, along with a breath without thinking, it directly pressed down on her with icy shards. Yiqing Luo realized something as her pupils instantly expanded. The glower flame fan in her hands suddenly opened up as it swiftly attacked Zhu Wu Exin. She had only just begun to set sail. It was directly grabbed by Zhu Wuxian's palm. With a flip of his hand, the devouring flame fan landed in Zhu Wuxian's hand. Although the attack failed. But at least she stopped Zhu Wuxian from forcefully kissing her. Holding her breath, she struggled to free herself from his grasp. However, Zhu Wuxian tightened his grip. His frosty eyes stared coldly at her face as he said in a sinister voice, "You hate me to this extent. I only kissed you once and you want my life. You call this treating me as a friend?" Yiqing Luo was feeling slightly shocked, guessing what kind of realm Zhu Wu Exion's ability was at. Her perception was unable to detect Zhu Wuxian's presence. Her speed was not even half of Zhu Wu Exion's. If Zhu Wuxian really wanted to do something to her, she wouldn't even be able to resist. He was actually this strong. He was still shocked by Zhu Wuxian's strength. Suddenly Zhu Wuxian's mocking voice rang in his ears. Yiqing Luo's pupils dilated again. Why did she want his life? Her attack was only to stop him from acting recklessly. She didn't even use 10% of her strength, all right. You. Friends wouldn't do such a thing. Moreover, I didn't want. Before she could say the words, your life. Chapter 2197. Either you die or I die. Yiqing Luo's body turned cold. She remained silent for a moment and raised her head, meeting his emotionless eyes. Are you serious? Perhaps it was because of the oppressive atmosphere. Or perhaps it was because of the confrontation between the both of them as it stirred up a hurricane. The bedchamber, which was originally brightly illuminated by the luminous pearls, suddenly dimmed down. The entire sleeping chamber became dark. Zhu Xian's face in the darkness couldn't be seen clearly, but Yiqing Luo could feel the coldness in his eyes. He was serious. His stubbornness, his persistence. He had already set his mind on her. Indeed, in the darkness, the man's gloomy and icy cold voice was heard. Right? Then, I'll tell you seriously, you and I will never be a couple. Yiqing Luo's voice gradually turned cold. Her gaze was calm as it met Zhu Xian's eyes. But the enemy that you mentioned, or you die or I die, I will not accept it. Saying that, Yiqing Luo directly raised her hand and pushed the man who was just inches away. Other than Zhou Xian's approach, she was unable to adapt to any other man. And of course, in her eyes, those little kids in devil class weren't considered as men. Yiqing Luo walked towards the bedroom door. The man behind her didn't stop her. Yiqing Luo opened the door. The light outside the door lit up the entire bedroom. A tall figure swayed and fell down from the door. Hey, why didn't you say anything when you opened the door? The man grumbled a few words as his tall figure staggered. He finally managed to regain his footing. Brushing his black hair, he raised his head and saw two pairs of eyes, staring straight at him. Cough cough, this hall master is just passing by. What kind of expression is that? Don't believe this hall master? The man couldn't take the pressure under the two pairs of eyes. This hall master is absolutely not eavesdropping. Yiqing Luo took a look at the hall master as she calmly interrupted his explanation. How to leave this place? You're leaving now? Hall master's cold eyes looked at Zhu Xian for a moment, but seeing that he had no reaction, he could only look at Yiqing Luo. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Don't you want to stay a little longer? Yiqing Luo kept silent. The palace master frowned and looked at Zhou Xian. He realized that there was still no reaction from that fellow. He suddenly felt very tired. Why does it feel like the eunuch is anxious when the emperor is not? He racked his brains trying to think of a way. Miss Yi, regarding the method to go to the upper realm, I can still explain it to you in detail, but actually, the class of God you know less than me. It's almost time. Yiqing Luo calmly interrupted his words. If Hall Master isn't worried that Master Ghost Doctor and Teacher Gui Yu would barge in, I don't mind staying behind to listen to Hall Master's detailed explanation of the method to head to the upper realm. The palace master helplessly glared at Zhu Xian. That guy lowered his head, his whole body shrouded in a haze. The hall master was so anxious that he wanted to kick him. The woman you want to woo doesn't know how to keep her? Didn't they see that he couldn't hold them back any longer? Send her out. In the end, these were the words that the temple master had been waiting for. The palace master racked his brains. His persona of a banished immortal collapsed into Dubai. However, the person who caused him to collapse his persona just casually mentioned 4 words. The palace master's state of mind instantly exploded. Fine, this is what you said, don't regret it. Saying that, he directly summoned the envoy, asking him to send Yiqing Luo back. Yiqing Luo stood at the entrance of the hall. Chapter 2198. Her pink lips moved slightly and her voice was cold. Zhu Xian, if you change your mind, come and find me. After saying that, he followed behind the emissary and left without looking back. When Yiqing Luo's figure followed the emissary and disappeared outside the enchantment. Inside the bedroom, the youth who had been standing in the haze all this time suddenly seemed to have lost all his hostility, and his whole body went limp on the ground. The palace master was startled by the loud dong. He immediately walked to Zhu Xian's side and supported him with one hand. The rays of light shone through the open doors of the hall, clearly illuminating the young man's dispirited and helpless expression, as well as his bewilderment and helplessness. However, in the next instant, Zhu Xian's expression had already recovered its icy coldness. He waved his arm and pushed the temple master away. Get out. I say, Wuxia, that woman doesn't know what's good for her. If you really like her, just snatch her. Why do you have to make yourself look like this? The palace master's expression was cold. This was the first time he had seen such an expression on Zhu Xian's face. I said get out. Zhu Xian's tone became heavier. An icy cold intent flowed in the air. The palace master stared at Zhu Xian. The expression on his face became more and more unsightly. After a while he snorted coldly, "Fine. I'm leaving. I'm leaving. I'll just let you fend for yourself here. What the hell am I trying to persuade you for?" With a bang, the palace door was slammed shut. The young man who was standing fell to the ground again. He leaned against a glass pillar and raised his head slightly. His ice-cold eyes seemed to have a dense watery glow. In his mind, the scenes of what happened with Yiqing Luo in the broken courtyard of the Three Springs sect kept circling around. Following that, it was the current Yiqing Luo and Zhou Xian's sweet loving scene. It was Yiqing Luo's cold rejection again, that unwavering look. There seemed to be something in his heart that was tearing him apart. It was so painful that he couldn't breathe. What Yiqing Luo said wasn't wrong. He had fallen in love with Yiqing Luo and was persistent towards her. It was the warmth she gave him when he first met her. What he longed for was her warmth. But he had been stubborn for a long time. This greed had been deeply engraved in the depths of his soul. He only wanted Yiqing Luo. Madly wanting Yiqing Luo. He was actually very clear about this. Yiqing Luo would never leave Zhou Xian. She would never give her love to him. However, he couldn't help but want to give it a try. He wanted to find that tiny chance. He could not bear to let go. Friends. Family. Chu Wuxia muttered Yiqing Luo's words softly. He chuckled softly. Indeed, as a friend, as a brother, as a relative. Only then would he be able to stay by Yiqing Luo's side. Only then could he truly feel the warmth that he wanted. He knew that towards her brothers, Yiqing Luo had always been willing to climb a mountain of swords or plunge into a sea of flames without hesitation. But he didn't want to. He just wanted to be her one and only. He didn't want to be one of her brothers, friends, or family. He would rather, using this identity as her only special enemy, to maintain a relationship with her. He was also unwilling, when those so-called brothers, friends, and relatives. But, such a special existence. What he lost. Perhaps it was the warmth that he wanted from Yiqing Luo. Based on what, he wanted to be in so much pain in his past memories. But she could be blissful in Zhou Xian's arms? She belonged to him. His Chu Wuxian's hand was trembling slightly. Chapter 2199. Yiqing Luo had just walked out of the ancestral hall. He was startled by the scene in front of him. There were at least 300 to 400 people gathered at the entrance of the ancestral hall. Standing right in front were the youths from Devil class. Their faces were solemn as they gripped their weapons tightly, ready to charge into the ancestral hall at any time. And at the forefront of the crowd, Old Man Guiyu and Ghost Doctor were also ready. Yunduan and the other elders tried to persuade him, sweating profusely. After seeing Yiqing Luo's figure, the few elders seemed as though they had seen their savior as they rushed up. "Student Yiqing Luo, it's good that you're out, it's good that you're out. Quickly come and persuade Ghost Doctor and Old Man Guiyu. The both of them are about to tear down the ancestral hall." Before they could surround their savior, one by one their bodies were blown away by the hurricane. Following that, 2 figures surrounded Yiqing Luo tightly. "Lass, are you all right? Did the people from the upper profound hall do anything to you?" Old Man Guiyu grabbed Yiqing Luo's hand and sized her up. "Whatever grievances you have suffered, just tell me, I will go in and seek justice for you." Ghost Doctor didn't say a word as he grabbed Yiqing Luo's wrist, helping to take her pulse. Looking at the 2 people surrounding him with concern, he felt a chill run down his spine. The unhappiness that had arisen from Zhou Wuxian just now vanished like smoke in an instant. She raised her pink lips, revealing a bright smile, and gave them a big hug. "I'm fine, I just went in to chat with the hall master of the upper profound palace." Yiqing Luo's eyes curved, confirming that Yiqing Luo had indeed not suffered any injuries. Old Man Guiyu was relieved and gently patted Yiqing Luo's delicate shoulder. The minute he let go of Yiqing Luo, Old Man Guiyu looked at Ghost Doctor beside him, and his expression suddenly changed as he grabbed onto Yiqing Luo's wrist and refused to let go. "I say, lass, you're too biased. Why did you hug that old man first before hugging me? I asked you to be my disciple, but you became that old geezer's disciple. Now you're hugging him first." Yiqing Luo. "Teacher Guiyu, are you sure you're not stirring up trouble?" Old Man Guiyu didn't care what Yiqing Luo was thinking, directly pulled her into his arms. "No. Since you're so biased, I still want to hug you again. I want to hug you one more time than that smelly old man." Yiqing Luo. "Teacher Guiyu, aren't you worried about ruining your reputation by behaving so shamelessly in front of so many students?" The surrounding students were speechless. In any case, Teacher Guiyu had never cared about his image. It was very normal for him to act like a deranged person. What did Hall Master look for you to discuss? Ghost Doctor looked at Yiqing Luo indifferently as he asked. Yiqing Luo finally struggled free from Old Man Guiyu's arms, and when she heard Ghost Doctor's question, she immediately ran over to him, seeking for protection. Just as she was about to answer, she caught a glimpse of Yun Xiang, who was watching her nervously from the corner of her eye. A trace of craftiness flashed past Yiqing Luo's eyes, talking about the recent situation in the academy. If the Upper Profound Palace wanted to understand the situation, did they need to specially ask their students? But after seeing the craftiness in Yiqing Luo's eyes, Ghost Doctor nodded his head as he cooperated and asked, "What else did Hall Master say?" "He said a lot regarding the academy's future development." Yiqing Luo looked at the elders beside her with deep meaning. Hall Master said that regarding the director's matter, he is clear about it. Regarding this matter, he will give a corresponding measure. The elders' expressions congealed. Some of them revealed a joyous expression. Chapter 2200. Yiqing Luo's words obviously conveyed a message. Heavenly Profound Palace was extremely dissatisfied with the director. Heavenly Profound Palace wanted to abolish the director. Then, the new director could be chosen from the few elders. This news naturally made those elders wild with joy. But Yun Xiang was very clear. He and Yiqing Luo had always been at odds. The Hall Master would discuss with Yiqing Luo about the academy's matters and the matter of abolishing the director. Apparently his relationship with Yiqing Luo was very good. The director's position would never belong to him. And he had always been standing on the director's side, doing things for him. If anything happened to the director, he would be the first to be implicated. He knew that once Yiqing Luo returned to the academy, his life would become a mess. Looking at Yun Xiang's gloomy face, Yiqing Luo laughed secretly. The Hall Master looked for her because of Zhu Wu Exen. It had nothing to do with the Heavenly Academy. But she could make use of the Heavenly Profound Palace's power to bully and target that director. Coincidentally, this was also a good excuse to oust the dean from his position and help someone else to take his place. Anyway, the Heavenly Profound Palace would absolutely not come out to explain. He was just making things up. "Oh yes, Elder Yun Yun." Yiqing Luo's gaze suddenly fell on Yun Yun. Yun Yun smiled slightly and asked kindly, "What's the matter?" "The Hall Master specially asked me about this year's inter-class competition and asked you to arrange for our Devil class students to go to the class of gods for special training." Yiqing Luo recalled those words from the Hall Master. Regarding her background. Regarding the method to go to the upper realm. Although the Hall Master didn't say it clearly, she could tell that the second method to go to the upper realm was somewhat troublesome and might require a lot of time. She had to enter the class of gods as soon as possible and find the student mentioned by the Hall Master to ask for the details of the second method, so that she could be prepared in advance. As for the abolishment of the director and the support of the new director, take it slow, no rush. Yiqing Luo's smile was as bright as a flower, blooming even more brilliantly. Yun Yun nodded. "The academy has already arranged for this matter, just waiting for you to return to the devil class." He looked at the group of youngsters behind Yiqing Luo. "But the class of gods is after all the class of gods, the Heavenly Academy's proudest class." Although student Yiqing Luo had performed outstandingly in the inter-class competition, his performance in the Southern Continent's Academy Exchange Meet was outstanding. But rules are after all rules. Student Yiqing Luo doesn't have any objections, right? "No." Yiqing Luo replied simply. Yun Duan was very satisfied with Yiqing Luo's understanding of the big picture. "Then will student Yiqing Luo please select 10 devil class students to follow you into the class of gods to undergo special training. Tomorrow I will personally lead you to the class of gods." After exchanging some pleasantries, Yunduan called for the other elders to disperse the crowd and let them return to class. Yiqing Luo also called for her bunch of students, as they headed back towards the direction of devil class. Ghost Doctor and Guiyu followed Yiqing Luo back to devil class. As for both of them leaving the Heavenly Academy, everyone pretended as if nothing had happened. Some people were happy while others were sad. Sitting in the small room in the ancestral hall, the dean copied the Book of Teacher Virtues for the 13th time. The resentment towards Yi Qingluo in his heart had risen to the peak. Chapter 2201. The president's hand which was holding the pen tightened. His gaze congealed as it swept past the dark and eerie ancestral hall. He didn't see any shadow. The president had lived for more than half his life, and in order to secure his position, his hands were stained with blood. To hear such a strange sound in the ancestral hall. The president's hair stood on its end. He frowned as he surveyed the surroundings. President. That sound rang again. As though it was right in front of him. The president's expression changed slightly as he suddenly stood up from the side of the short table. Who? He bellowed. Who's playing tricks? Get out here right now. It's me, President. That voice rang by the side of his ear again. The president felt as though his sleeve was being tugged by something. He suddenly waved it away. Who's there? A loud dong sound was heard. The sound of a heavy object falling onto the ground was extremely loud. In front of the memorial tablet, the lighted candle illuminated the object which had fallen onto the ground clearly. The object which was lying on the ground was a lump of white. That lump of white thing moved bit by bit. With great difficulty he raised his head. The president was stunned. Elder Yun Xiang? The dim candlelight, although it wasn't clear. But the president recognized the figure in front of him at one glance. President, it's me. Don't make any noise, I'm going to be discovered. Yun Xiang rubbed his body in pain as he struggled to prop himself up. I used the secret art of burrowing into the ground and escaped to the ancestral hall, so I didn't trigger the backlash from the ancestral hall's enchantment. Earlier when he was tortured by the president, he didn't know if it had attracted the attention of the upper profound hall. What are you here for? The president's expression congealed as he revealed an unhappy expression. I'm here to send news to the president. Yun Xiang could tell that the president was unhappy as he snorted in disdain, but on the surface, he had to display a wholehearted expression. News? The president squinted his sinister eyes. What news? Yi Qingluo, that little slut. She came out from the upper profound hall. Yun Xiang gritted his teeth. The president's expression suddenly turned green and purple. How could she possibly come out from the upper profound hall? Didn't they want to detain her and make her stay in the upper profound hall? Upper profound hall. The mysterious existence of the Heavenly Academy. Even he, the head of the Ascendant Xian Hall, had only seen those from the Ascendant Xian Hall twice. People from the Upper Xian Palace. Compared to the dark forces, they were even more terrifying. Such a mysterious and powerful force. Looking for Yi Qingluo, wasn't it to detain Yi Qingluo or to get something from Yi Qingluo? No matter what the reason was. Based on Yi Qingluo's arrogant character, he would definitely die in the Upper Xian Hall. However, she actually walked out from the Upper Profound Hall. That's right. Not only did she leave the Upper Mysterious Hall unscathed, it is said that she even brought back the Hall Master's orders. Yun Xiang saw Director's expression starting to turn ugly, and he struck while the iron was hot as he told Director everything which he had heard from Yi Qingluo. The more the dean heard, the uglier his expression became. After Yun Xiang finished speaking, he suddenly waved his palm and slammed it on the ground. A huge pit appeared around his palm. Director's facial features were sinister as his veins popped out. Yi Qingluo. That bitch. She's talking nonsense. How could the Upper Profound Hall possibly interfere in the Heavenly Academy's matters? If the Upper Profound Hall really interfered in the Academy's matters, to meddle in the Dean's matters. For so many years he had been following beside the Dark Forces and working for the Dark Forces, so the Upper Profound Hall had long taken action against him.